Okay. I think we should get started.
Let's get started. First of all, a short introduction to Hans Kluge before we begin with our discussion. Would you like to say some words, what you are doing, or?
Thanks for the introduction. My name is Hans. I'm a project manager and a coach and a nerd and something like that. And I would try to have an experiment with this session as well, with the Larnaca-Conferences, because I prepared a mural board. Next technical thing here, I prepared a mural board to just have a mini sketch note now to collect all those things which are set here, or questions which appear in your head that you can take a note and write it on that board. And you're all invited to join that board. I will pass the link into the chat now. You're all invited to have it, perhaps on your second screen, whatever, and to look on it. And yes,
of course, the nerdy thing to say, put it on the second screen.
Yeah.
As if every one of us has a second screen.
That's why if you have one, no, but be here in this Zoom meeting and
third screen also okay.
Yeah, fourth as well. And yes, have a look at it if I'm doing things right, because I try to do the talk map. I'm thinking of a mind map of all those things which are should be set here. Yeah, that's from my side.
Lovely
Okay.
idea.
Thanks. Then I would like to give the word to Gitta to start off the discussion. I think you have a question to get us started.
More an idea.
Okay.
I think first we should listen a little bit more to Ilya and Marius about the frustrating experience with informing the public, leaders and politicians about what has to be done in order to deal with a crisis properly, and along the way we should, that is something interesting, especially for you, Hans, should make a list of everything that can be practically done. Yeah, that should be communicated, everything that helps people to deal better with the crisis, helps people to deal better also with the communication problems and conflicts that are coming with the crisis. What shall we do? Shall we engage in polarized conflicts, yes or no, stuff like that. I feel that is important, that we come out of this discussion with a list of things people really can do and that help everywhere. So Ilya and Marius, if you would like to start and tell us a little bit about what is there to be known, and what are your experiences with leaders and politicians?
Ilya, you start.
Okay. Right. So the point we tried to make during the last year with the general public as well as the politicians is that the virus as an entity is not such a great threat. The real threat is the virus attacking the older multimorbid people, not just older people because of their age, but the persons who, as Marius noted, are characterized by dysfunction, by multiple age-related disease. If we really want to address this pandemic, we need to think about preventing age-related ill health, promoting healthy longevity. That's the point we're trying to make. We organize conferences. We wrote position paper. I put in the link some of our position papers as well as some of the statements in press that we made. You can see the logic. Basically, the logic is, okay, we understand that all the people are affected. The next logical step is to understand that they are affected because of their aging process, because of the process that predisposes them to multiple age-related disease. Let's try to look at that. And they don't get it. They simply put viruses in one mental compartment and age-related risk factors in another, and they simply don't mix. And
Why?
I think
Why, Ilya? What do you think? Why they do not get it? What is missing there?
that's right. That's a question I've been pondering this entire period. Why don't people get it? That's probably the most logical connection one can make. Why don't they get it? And I think the problem is still this type of siloed, disconnected thinking that is characterizing our modern thinking. Is extra specialist thinking. Yes, I know viruses. I don't want to know the other age-related diseases. And possibly also people are simply blocking the very concept of aging, that they're going to age, that they're going to die of age-related diseases. It's not there. It's an ostrich putting the head in the sand and seeking a solution there. So basically, you ask how did they respond? They didn't respond. That's the thing. They didn't make any logical argument. No, we should address that. They simply ignore you. You are on the way to some health official, and he says, "No, I have to deal with Corona. I have no time for this." You remember this? You remember this cartoon? In the Stone Age, some
Yes.
guys offering a wheel to people who are using squares in their wheelbarrows, and said, "Don't bother us. We don't have time for you." So that's exactly the situation here. You try to offer them a solution, at least a way to a solution. No, we don't have time for this. We have our own ways, and that's a problem. So the practical thing that I could suggest is really to try to influence this mode of thinking, this siloed, disconnected, non-holistic way of thinking. It's a tough one. It's very much entrenched in the general mind. But in the public mind, but we have to fight it somehow. An article here, a position paper there, a meeting here, and I think it will break the mold someday. But right now it's far from there. That's what I can say.
Yeah, one way to break this is seeing it in another way. For example, we at the beginning of the pandemic in March, even 2020. Several doctors saw that the restrictive measures that they are putting in place are going to have an effect on all the people because they put everybody into lockdown. All the people stayed on their own, many of them on their own, without social contacts and without anybody to look after them. And this created a lot of knock-on effects. For example, people didn't take their medication properly, didn't have their checkups properly, didn't get the right care. They were psychologically affected. And all of this we predicted based on some statistical models that is going to have an increase of extra deaths of all the people, not related to the COVID disease. And unfortunately, the latest statistics, at least for Cyprus, probably in Israel as well, show that there is an excess mortality in the first part of 2021, which cannot be explained unless we say it's due to the vaccines. But apart from that, this excess mortality, which can reach up to 30%, I think, in Cyprus, is, in my view, related to the restrictive measures, the lockdowns. And because of that, we had some meetings with the ministers of health. We had one minister of health at the beginning of the pandemic, and then he resigned and somebody else took over, an accountant. So we used that as an example to raise the issue of all the people, that you cannot just put any measures in place in order to control the pandemic without taking into account the aging population, because that is going to cause a lot of more deaths. And they said they will look at it, and yes, they understand it, and yes, they will have a committee and commission. And indeed, we started a committee of the Ministry of Health to look into these aspects of the pandemic, how the whole dealing of the pandemic is affecting all the people. So I think that's an example of how we can start breaking the ice between aging and immune system and pandemics.
Did I understand you correctly that you think that the mortality rate will be up to 30% higher than normally?
Some statistics show this in Cyprus. We calculated that for Cyprus statistics, it may be about 800 more deaths. We have about a total of, I think, 3,000 or 4,000 deaths per year of all people normally. And now we are going to have 600 to 800 deaths extra, additional mortality, excess mortality, based on some statistical models. So there is excess mortality. We don't know yet how much in a percentage way, because we don't have many statistics being made public. For example, the age of the individuals who died is not always given. It's not made public, so we don't know. We just know that somebody died.
May I add, Gita, about excess mortality?
Sure.
I just want to add, yes, we can see that this crisis is largely an outcome of the population aging, of the increasing multimorbidity of the aging population, but it is also accelerating the population aging. And not just because of the increasing morbidity due to restrictive measures and other measures, but also because the fertility is declining. People talk about excess mortality, but not many people talk about also decreasing fertility. So these two trends actually exacerbating the aging problem. And it's going to be worse and worse. The next crisis will probably be even more severe. It could be another virus. It could be an economic crisis. It could be ecological crisis. The population aging in overdrive. So if we really need to address the aging problem, increase the health and longevity. Otherwise, we're going to spiral down.
I understand. I just read an article in the German Handelsblatt, which is an economic paper for economy, that we will have a lot of problems when the boomer generation is leaving the planet. Yeah, when it comes to knowledge, for example, that has to be transferred from one generation to the other, where technology changes everything and some things cannot be transferred any longer. So this is part of the problem, right?
Yes.
So what can we do?
I think everybody should do their own effort in their own specialty, even if it is a small effort, trying to find ways to overcome it. We can use technology to our advantage and disseminate ideas. Somebody will see them. People say, "Oh, you make meetings and you have conferences and so on," and nobody is listening. But philosophically, they say that first was the voice, and after the voice, the ear was created. So we try and shout, and somebody will listen at least part of it, not 100%.
Do people? Is it possible to put together more multidisciplinary groups to approach these people, the decision makers, so that they realize that it's not just an expert on aging that's talking, but people that have found a connection and realize that the complexity of this is combinational, because of course in a complex system you can start from anywhere in a complex system and then reach the other side of it. So there is no center. I think they're centering. If you're experiencing so much frustration, Ilya, then it's probably just because they're centering on aging, right?
Yeah, could be, because people are really blocking the topic of aging out of their mind. That's their coping strategy. Just don't bother us with this terrible aging thing, and that's why they probably don't want to invest in. But you're absolutely right. We need to find more common language with other sectors, with other social groups, definitely, because we're still talking to ourselves. Marius and me and the group of so-called longevity activists. We have been talking at least for 10 years to each other, and without much spiel to the general population. And I agree, we need more outreach.
Maybe one thing we can do is when we have our list of ideas what we can do here, and we talk a little bit more about aging, is make some cuts of this video and send this to the media, for example, and hope that some will listen and change their topics. What do you think about that?
Yes, can I ask something? Because I think maybe one answer is that if there was a market for because I think I'm not I just read that I agree there's some conflict. There's some conflict like between there's some antagonism. So I was just wondering if there was just stressors that and if homeostasis like balance of the system, so it's working functional. And maybe another note that maybe I think science or the consensus in the scientific community is the virus is not alive. So that's abiotic. So we when we have a symbiotic relationship with machines, and that's true, and it can be a virus as an abiotic factor, and that's like minerals and the light. Those are abiotic factors. So we have a synergetic and symbiotic relationship with many things, and I think maybe if there was a market to that for homeostasis, like metaphor, no, because there is, and we have ways to hedge against that risk. If that would be possible, if there was a lot of money invested, if that's like one of the reasons why aging is a problem, because it has reduced longevity on a specific population in an ecosystem.
One of the problems here is political, because we represent different countries, and the situation in each country may be different. Even within Europe, the situation as in the whole of Europe may be different than into individual country member of Europe. So this is always going to be a problem, I think.
I mean, from our perspective, we have the biosphere, so everything that's within the boundary of interactions, relationships.
I think when you ask to address some sort of market, Mike, people always look for new opportunities to earn money, if that is what you are looking for here. And I think there might be many businesses, many corporations interested in thinking about how they can support the elderly to not come into crisis, as Ilya gave us the definition as that people crisis as a whole attack elder people in crisis is a state of helplessness. Yeah, so that might be something. But first, I think from a systemic perspective, all social systems only do what they are interested in. Yeah, so the question is what is communicated, and as long as aging is not communicated as the one factor that is relevant to look at, as I understood you, Ilya and Marius, correctly. As long as that does not happen, nobody will communicate this. So where are the trigger points in society we can press?
Incentives. It's called incentive. It's an incentive.
Yeah.
But the incentive, the real incentive is we want to stay alive, basically. we want our to stay alive ourselves and our society. But
Yes.
we really need the courage to face the problem, which is the degenerative aging process, and many of us don't, and many in the society don't, and so we really just need to break through to them through outreach, but it takes time. And
maybe we need a different approach to it, like a computer virus, instead of going full front, say, deal with the aging process. Maybe we should do it sideways, plant ideas into government that are possible to be executed. I'll tell you an example. For example, in Cyprus, we don't have a national strategy for the health of older people. And we are pushing that for the ministry and the government to set up a strategy for this. But the strategy would involve, yes, it will involve medical matters, more doctors, more money for illnesses. But within the strategy, we'll implant requests for dealing with the aging process as well. So we'll do a meeting here, we'll have an announcement there, and we'll say it is under the umbrella of the national strategy for older people. And the ministry would accept it because they have this strategy. It's a accepted thing. And we'll have an opportunity to say our things into a captive audience of politicians or other industry professionals.
That's also the approach we are practicing here in Israel. Also, piecemeal approach. A conference here, a meeting with the politician there. We're actually able to introduce the topic of prevention of age-related disease into the Israel National Master Plan on Aging, and there were issued some calls for research proposals on geroscience. Also, thanks to our advocacy. No comparison to what was 10 years ago. But we see that in practice, it's not enough. It's never enough. So all our efforts were in vain to prevent this crisis. So we need somehow to intensify our effort for the next crisis.
I think it's always interesting how you need to be able to describe concepts. As Guido was saying, that the societal systems will only pursue what they think is interesting, and if it's assuming that you do put together something like an interdisciplinary team that can show how you could start with aging and move to aspects of comorbidity and see how that is actually perhaps well distributed throughout the population, then what do you call it? I mean, if you want to break out of, let's say it this way, if you want to break out of the aging morbidity ghetto, what do you call it?
Yeah.
When we think of this interdisciplinary, we can also think about the media and marketing campaigns, for example, people who are in marketing. Just some ideas are spinning in my head. A video with elder people and the meme, the wisdom factor. Yeah, and as long as I live, you can access my knowledge. Something like that. A campaign that's helping with people to comprehend the relevance of keeping the elder people vivid, alive, healthy, and connected to society. From a constructive perspective here, I think that might be something that can work even on a global scale when it's done in a good way. So the question then there would be, where can we find our marketing campaign leaders doing something really great here? Yeah, that is short to the point, but with many older people, so with this the wisdom factor. Yeah.
I have to say that in Europe there is the European Seniors Union, which is a group of local organizations who are quite organized politically. There are groups of older people, seniors people. I think they are slightly right wing. What is it? There's a party in the European government, in the European Union, which is a bit right wing. Is it the People's Party? Something like that. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But they are well organized in every European country, and we have direct contact with them. We can promote something there to their own members. They have quite a few 100,000 members.
Yeah, that would be a good idea. Thank you, Marius.
And
can I say, I think, because the issue of social responsibility in regards to this, yeah, I think that's something that we can work on.
And additionally, perhaps to address the strong bondages in families and to beloved ones, so that this issue is addressed, that you can see each other with vaccination, for example. And bondages and love is a strong influencer, I suppose, in this regard.
Yeah. When you use the family thing and love and stuff like that for marketing campaigns, you will always address the conservative side of society. Conservative side. When we get contact, as Marius supposed to these people from the European Party, and we do an ad, for example, with family bonding, I think then we can see that our political influence will be not what we wish for.
And how about I'm thinking of some sort of direct causality approach. If you imagine something like a commercial again, and it's a person that the person is older or aging and has a certain ailment, and the ailment theoretically can be traced back to a certain lifestyle or diet. And then this older person is having a conversation with a younger person that has exactly that kind of lifestyle or diet. And I think, I mean, it's certainly not linear, but I think commercials are always linear because you're not supposed to think too much.
Yeah.
And one thing I have to add to this is, yes, definitely we need a marketing type of thinking. But the problem with aging advocacy or longevity advocacy has been the disastrous lack of funding for any kind of marketing. It's simply amazing. You know, everybody agrees with you. I haven't met a person that didn't agree with you. But then let's put up some money for a marketing campaign for outreach. No, nobody thinks that advocacy is worth a penny. So it's on our own free time and effort.
Yeah.
But definitely, yes, if we are doing marketing campaign, we would also need to think of sources of funding for it.
Yeah, it is the same with education, Ilya. Everybody agrees that everybody else needs education.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm not what Ilya said. The incentive is survival. I'm not sure if everyone gets this. I guess, or if you look from the outside at the system, you could take away that humankind isn't interested in survival these times.
Looks like it.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure if it's really survival or if it's living. So more this ecocentric thing and till my death and then goodbye. I'm not sure. Maybe we have to address there and not estimating. Oh, they want to survive sustainably because it doesn't look like that.
In first world countries, but in other countries where people experience poverty and so on, they know about the necessities to survive a lot. And there we have to establish a dialogue, Markus. It's a first world country problem. As long as you do not have the problem, so as long you are not forced to do anything at all. And that is the same, I think, with aging. When I remember how I thought when I was 20, I thought I will never get old. These old people are really stupid to grow old. Yeah, that was the feeling I had back then, and I think many try to keep this feeling on up to they are 60 or even 70 years old until they finally realize that their back is hurting.
Yeah, but the problem is that the wealthier countries are causing the problems,
right?
And not the rest of the world. And so you can talk about the rest of the world and they know what's survival, but if the people which are causing the problem aren't aware and aren't into these problems the same, then it's getting difficult.
Yeah.
It is a great truth. It is a great truth that we do not appreciate. And maybe this is not maybe, I'm fully convinced that this is why we have people in authorities who are not passionate for what they are doing. Because if we are talking about changing things, then you need people in the authorities who are passionate about changing things, who are passionate about the optimal way of living and the optimal way of being, who are passionate about values and virtues. But this is completely absent. And people do not really care. I mean, when I'm to many people, I mean, half to the people that I talk about nutrition and lifestyle, they tell me, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. I don't care if I die. I just want to enjoy these things. And then you have this kind of politicians who are not really experts in the fields that they are representing, because the people who really care are nowhere. They're not going to become politicians, or they're not taking positions in authority positions, because they know what it takes to go there, how deeply you have to go into to be implicated into the system, and this is something they don't want to bother with.
Yeah. So that is one of the many reasons why we started the Larnaca-Conferences, that more people who actually know poverty and so on can join and talk with us. I have experience with poverty, and in Germany, when you grow older, there are many people today here, and the number is growing, that will suffer from poverty in old age. And that means in Germany that it is quite it's almost impossible to get the right nutrition, because meat is cheap and noodles are cheap and stuff like that. But when it comes to fresh fruit and veggies, the prices are growing by the year. Yeah, so it becomes a growing problem here, that people from a systemic perspective will have a lot more trouble when they grow older, and nobody is there to listen to their problems.
This is actually everywhere. I mean, health and money in order to have health and to follow the proper lifestyle to have health it's a huge problem, and I face it every day. And I'm actually always now, if the last months, I'm building like new strategies to consult people on how they can efficiently, with less money, buy more healthy, nutritious foods, which won't be that much expensive, and get their nutrients and get all these important stuff, things they need. And it is also,
But
yes.
Just wanted to say something. Just to note, I mean, we cannot be happy if we don't have a social life as well. So just that's a big factor.
Yeah, that's right.
It definitely is, but we know only black and white. They haven't taught us that if you are mostly having a proper lifestyle, which is crucial. I mean, the thing with COVID and comorbidities, I mean, the literature is filled up with associations right now, up to now. I mean, we know that we have to live properly, and then you can cheat. But if you are mostly cheating and then you are deciding for a couple of days to live properly, I mean, there's no balance in this. And
please.
No.
The association note, I was just interested too. Maybe. Okay.
I just want to say that I very much agree with Savas, and also in a sense, Marcos. Apathy is really a very big part of the problem. Apathy, of course, connects very well to helplessness and hence to crisis. The society is very much apathetic. People don't even care about their own survival, let alone living long and healthy, which eventually comes to valuation of life, of individual life, of societal life. There is a lot of, as I say, a warm can of issues there, so that we'll need to dig out. But at least if we pose this goal of healthy longevity, then all those issues are coming to light. So at least we need to start this discussion.
Thank you for this very lively discussion. And I'm not sure if you also can see or have a look at the chat, because there are some pretty good ideas, I think. And there's one from quite a few from Tom. But the first one is, people have already knowledge, and it's not easily for them to integrate new information. So this comes again to the questions you have discussed earlier. What language do we need, or what stories do we have to tell, so that people can really are able to integrate new information on the misinformation they already have. So this is quite a topic. It's a topic of language. And then Tom also said, in cooperation, there is energy around trying to protect the intellectual capital of the organizations. And the intellectual capital is the elder population. And how could we link this, bridge this across organizations and cultures? And then there's an idea from Gerhard, who said, if we know this organization, which is called Grow Wise, it's basically a job platform for seniors to use their knowledge and experience when in retirement. And this is also a group of elderly people who are already interconnected, and who could be a platform.
To language, yes, Tom, definitely. Yeah, that's why we work with FORMWELT. That is an important approach. Another, in my experience, is not to work with too many explanations, but more with questions. When you give explanations, people stop thinking. Yeah, so what we have to do here is to bring the dialogue into society via questions, constructive motivation, and motivate them to come up with new ideas. Yeah, that would be something, because when we explain everything stops.
And who do we aim? So who's the addressee? That would be my question.
There I will go with Marius, everybody, and let's see who is listening.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think we should, Julian is in marketing in Romania, right? So I think you can think about some ideas you and your team can come up with. Tom, you might want to address some of the corporations you have worked with and are in contact with that they might join in and help a little bit with funding to make this a big thing. Because when politicians do not listen, there's someone they always listen to, and that is the citizen, because they need the citizens' vote. Yeah, so if we can hack the system by doing something extraordinary that triggers people to engage into the dialogue instead of engaging into conflict, we will have something that might work in the end. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and by using our international contacts and say, okay, Joanna in China, you know them, and you know them, and you know them, etc., we might ignite something here.
And also locally, I might add.
Yeah,
if you're in a parents' council in school, for example, and you have the idea to visit the senior residents so the children or the school kids can see how elder people live in our society. I think we have a tradition, and especially in Germany, I think, where you are put in boxes. You get born. You get in the first box, it's called Kinderkrippe in Germany. Then you go to kindergarten, then you go to school, and in the end you go to the big box, which is called senior residence, and there you die. And everyone has its own building. Everyone is in its own box, separated from each other. And I'm a social worker, and we have very good experiences with bringing people together. Youth links, explaining the smartphone to seniors, to elderly people. Panel discussions between local politics and youth links, and so different groups with have no contact come together and do something which they haven't done before. And I think that's also something I think about a lot. How can we create rooms where people can have experiences they don't usually have in our culture and in our societies? We are all gewöhnt. Used to. Thank you. We are used to what we know and not used to what we don't know.
I did a project once in in Hawaii. My father lives on the Big Island, and so I had this this project with a friend of mine. It was a small business promotion project, and they in Hawaii they have a lot of problems with the different cultures, because you have a lot of Japanese first, second, third generation. Then you have very few blood Hawaiians, as they call them. And then you have mostly white Americans from the mainland. Then you have the other smaller groups, the Filipinos, the Chinese, people coming from Polynesia. And they live side by side, but they don't really talk to each other. And so I did this project once there where we used teenagers to show their parents and older people within their own groups, within their own national groups, how to use the internet. And that worked pretty well, because everyone was in the same room. And then automatically, if you set up a situation where they can eat together, I mean, that's totally, I mean, Michael, you know that yourself in social pedagogy. If you can get people to eat together, then you're already halfway there. And so that worked out pretty well. The people were automatically talking to each other more. And it has to have that individual aspect in it. I think also what Marcus mentioned indirectly is that people have to feel like, okay, this is for me, you know. You can talk about empathy and things like that after they get theirs, you know. Then they're open enough to join the group and, like I said, go and eat and things like that. But I think that's part of the marketing strategy. It's the strange thing about marketing is that it has to be broad, and at the same time, these days at least, it has to be individualistic.
Mm. Thank
I
you.
just
Yeah.
even Gerhard just posted an example of this in Vienna, and it's called Vollpension Wien. And they also have courses like this, smartphone courses, etc., happening, and these generational baking cafes. So it's in many places there are already examples where you can step in.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
It would be interesting to have to look around in your personal areas where you live, what is already existing, where you could go and get into dialogue and contact.
Mm. Yeah.
But it's also something that should be paid for actually by responsible political organizations or governmental organizations.
Yeah, that's right. I'm reading just what Julian is writing here. Just as life needs a fixed and specific amount of chemical molecules and water and energy and so on. I think thinking between us, you have to grow up in a certain environment. You have to read maybe a certain quote so that you can plant a seed in your own mind with an idea, get to know similar people, etc. Reality, chance, a statistic, like us in this conference. It's hard it is to get our concentrated ideas to make them real for others. We need the perfect recipe to create that thinking. That is not possible. Julian, from a systemic perspective, always the system decides what it does with the presented information. Yeah, information actually is what the system does. So what we can try here is to hack the system.
Mm-hmm. Subvert it.
Yeah. The rebel's perspective is always the best when it comes to deal with ignorance. What I did, for example, to create a focus on our work to create interest is I created conflict in the social media. Mm-hmm. I went out there and said the things nobody wanted to listen to and nobody wanted to hear, because that is the thing where people are attracted to. They are attracted to name, to conflict, and to status.
Yeah, well, actually, the negative marketing is the best marketing.
Yeah, it is.
And it's everywhere nowadays.
Yeah.
Okay, we already have an hour now talked in the first breakout session, since we're all together in one room, but still the question is, do we need 5-minute break?
I think that's a good idea, 5 minutes, and then we can bring the ideas together and think about who is doing what. Yeah?
Okay, then we start.
Thank you.
All right.
Peter, it's interesting you had mentioned that Chan Zuckerberg, Mark's wife, she's posted a leadership development job. So it's out in my feed on LinkedIn, this job that Chan has for her foundations. So I thought, well, that would be something really interesting.
Yeah.
But she does have a foundation, so it's I think it's worth it just to look to see what she's even doing.
Yeah, I once had a look at what she's doing and wrote to her, but there was no answer. I think they get a lot of emails, so you have to be the worm, digging your hole into the system.
or get a job there as a leadership development person. I'm not sure they want my brand of leadership, but we see how things go.
I would not be so sure. I think they think of themselves as progressive.
That's true. That's great.
And yes, Mike, you are totally right there. Mike is writing in the chat that there's a whole industry out there interested in longevity. But I think Ilya and Marius can tell us a little bit more about how successful it might be to address them. In my experience, this is a complex industry with many different opinions out there. Some are not very scientific, to say it a little bit careful. Ilya, where are you?
I'm
there.
I'm here. Yes, if you're asking about longevity industry, I personally think yes, it has its place. It's important, to create goods and services. I wouldn't place all the eggs in the industry basket, in the commercial basket. Definitely not with aging. We still don't know a lot about the most fundamental aging processes. There's a lot of place for fundamental research that will not bring profit anytime soon.
Yeah.
And this particular segment is not ready to invest in this kind of research. It's also part of the problem. On the other hand, the government is simply not interested in a thing that will not bring them immediate political and also material dividends. It's all a part of this restrictive short-term thinking. But yeah, I'm for longevity industry, but also for developing other branches. That's where I focus. I focus on non-profits. I'm a member of at least 10 longevity non-profits. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. So you agree with what we have so far developed here, that we try to hack the system by creating, or at least trying to create a marketing campaign, that addresses this problem with questions, with a fresh spirit, that comes from an unexpected perspective, maybe.
Definitely. We've been thinking about the marketing strategies for many years and try this thing and others. The problem has always been the lack of funds for this kind of marketing. But you can still do a lot with pure enthusiasm, and I hope we can, and maybe even get some funding. Great. Also, I have to warn in advance. Longevity activists, longevity enthusiasts are usually very individualistic. They don't work together too well. It's also something we have to deal with. But even if every one of us does his or her own part, that's great. But if we can manage to join together and do a common project, that would be best.
Yeah, I think, yes, of course, funding is relevant, and a lack of funding, I know the problem is always drawing time, because then you need manpower to solve the problem, more people. But that is what we are starting here right now. And so we have Julian, we have Tom, Mike has some ideas, and I think every one of us can think about what he or she can do. Julian, you and we can think about first ideas on the campaign.
Right.
Yeah.
I can actually do. There are some tinchy secrets in the internet on how to do a cheap campaign that could spam the internet in a really aggressive way, but legal way, let's say like that. And we don't need that much fund.
Okay. Yeah, and from there we can then think about whom we can contact in the press, in the media. Marius, can you make the contact with this European party for Larnaca-Conferences, so we can talk to them about how they can support us with manpower, funding, and whatever?
Yes, I'm in contact with the central committee.
Yeah.
But each country have their own committee as well. So, and they are branching out to other smaller organizations. So I would speak to the central committee, but I think maybe worthwhile each country, each person here contact their own local branch, the European Seniors Union.
That I can promise you in Israel. Until about 2 months ago, we didn't even have a budget, a state budget, talking about helplessness. So nobody even wanted to talk about anything else but budget. Now they have budget, and now they have a little less corona. So I hope we can now start talking with them again.
Yeah.
So
one thing I have to say, that nobody is disappointed when this is not working. If this is a right-wing extremist party, we will not cooperate with them.
Not extremist.
It's not okay. That is important to know. If it's something like the CDU in Germany, which is the Christ Democratic Party here in Germany, that is okay. But farther right, FORMWELT and Larnaca-Conferences will not go.
It's more conservative, let's say, than the left wing.
Okay.
Is it the EVP?
I don't know what is it called in each country.
I can translate it. It's the European People Party.
No, it's the European Seniors Union. I don't know if they are associated with that. It could be. I think it is, yes, but it's not a party initiative. It's many people who got together, but they just happen to have more conservative ideas.
Okay,
Communism.
Yeah. Now I see it. No, I don't think that will be a problem with them. Thank you, Marius. Okay, so Julian and I will talk about some ideas on marketing. Is anybody here also into marketing or has good contacts to other marketing firms, agencies, or whatsoever, and can make the contact and bring Julian and me in with them to? Oh God, my English. You know what I mean.
In contact. bring them in contact.
Yes, with and okay.
Contact list would be the good start.
Okay, no. Is everybody here okay with coming in contact with all other panelists of the Larnaca-Conferences via email? So your emails would be made known to everybody else from all conferences this year. Okay, then we can ask the other panelists to join in and think about ideas. How they can support us, with which companies they can bring us together. Maybe there are politicians, who are interested in this. Marius, you can talk to Stavros Manas about our idea here, and maybe he has some ideas or contacts and can help with this.
Yes,
so
of course.
this
we will talk. Yes.
Thank you, Ilya. You can do the same, yes, with your peers and.
Definitely. We can say that we have support in Europe that always helps. So.
Yeah, wonderful. So everything comes to us. We will organize it, and you will bring all the contacts in, and then Julian can start a campaign with whatever marketing agency will join in.
Right.
Wonderful. Okay, when this works, we might have something that can help.
Everything helps. Let me tell you, every little bit helps. That's been my motto. Everything we can do.
Yes, I'm not that optimistic any longer, because I did 33 years now, everything that helps a little bit, and I'm growing older by the day. So one day I'm dead, and FORMWELT is still not out there. That is not what I'm looking for. So I'm a little bit whatever life. On one hand, I say the system does what the system does, and on the other hand, I'm always pushing, and pressing points. But I think hacking the system is always the best idea. Okay,
that's exactly why you're pushing it anyway.
Right? Right. Okay, any ideas? Mark, Marius, Ilya, some last words, some ideas what we can do?
Just let's do it. A lot of people ask, well, what is it exactly that we need to do? Tell me, give me a recipe, tell me a set of orders. No, we just go ahead and do. We understand our goals more or less, to raise awareness about the aging problem, to intervene, to improve health and longevity. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Love it. Let's go ahead and do it. Okay, that's our slogan.
Should we limit it to aging? Only
at the moment, this is as Ilya, Marius, and has pointed out. Yes, it seems to be in Germany we say Knackpunkt.
The root cause.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
aging is not for old people who are 90 years old. Aging, I see it, is something that is affecting 40-year-olds, 50. So it's quite a wide group.
Okay. And even younger people can know about the effects that bad aging can have like on life quality, and you can raise awareness also in this way. Like during the pandemic, I was really shocked to have a lot of teenagers at my office as a nutritional consultant with insulin resistance, and their mothers were bringing them, and they were in a really bad state. Like you could see how depressed they were. They were getting overweight, lack of motivation. They were really all day focused on electronics and the screens, and like insulin resistance on that age, it's something new, and it's really not acceptable.
Savas, you are a nutritional consultant. Are you still doing the work?
Yes, actually, I just started with the consultations.
Okay. We should talk about this. Yeah, in the long run, we should talk about, for example, a page on Larnaca-Conferences with recipes for poor people.
Yes, sure.
Yeah,
I'd love to do this. Yes,
wonderful.
Yes. I'm always trying to help people, and the people who like to listen, they listen.
Yeah, that is something else where elderly people can join in, because many elderly still know recipes that work best for people with who have not a lot of money.
Yes. There are strategies, and it doesn't only stop to nutrition. Dr. Marius knows very well, like that the environment and our habits, how much they can influence health. So it can be like generally a health protocol, or maybe if you don't like the word protocol, strategies.
Yeah.
Like there is a lot to offer to people. There's a lot to offer people.
But I think what just came up to me was, I think it's really very important that people don't misunderstand the term aging. Because in general language understanding, aging is old people, and this is not what you mean. So again, there's this language point where I'm just slowly grasping what you are talking about. Really, that it is about aging in young age.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted to get back to again. I think maybe the best strategy is never to even mention aging. Just to talk about everything that kind of leads to it, and maybe you can drop that word at the end. But I also think with teenagers think they're immortal, So it's kind of really difficult to talk about aging with them.
Yeah, it's really difficult. Yeah.
Yes, but isn't the taboo always the thing that makes the hack easier? If you break it, if you break it, you can make it very interesting.
But what's cool about aging for teenagers?
Right.
Many things can be.
We can actually two things. First of all, they have grandparents that they can care about them. And another thing, you'll be surprised. I've been in this activism for many years, and actually young people, they think more about the more drastic interventions, the more drastic solutions. Some would call even futuristic solutions. Actually, people in their 20s, they think a lot about aging. They think a lot about their own mortality. Let me tell you, I first thought about aging when I was 6. And that's my personal story. Then I talked with my grandfather. He said, put it out of your mind. But I didn't. So you'll be surprised.
That was the fun fact.
Yeah.
True.
But you got older anyway.
Yeah, it didn't work so far.
I think it could be quite funny to make a campaign including stuff like, just for your knowledge, you will die.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How much are you going to do for it?
That's a good idea.
That attracts a lot of attention. Yeah, that's great.
I'll tell you an example that I'm doing now. I'm supposed to be doctor for older people, but I just wrote a book in Cypriot dialect for young children, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, where I present the ideas of how not to age. But I don't say do this so that you won't be old. I say you have to eat this kind of food, you have to do this kind of exercise because it's good and so on.
Yeah.
I use the Cypriot dialect to connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an example that we can use aging, but use a language that younger people can understand as well.
Yeah, I think it can't be hit head on. It has to be.
Yeah, it has to come sideways. Like you have to convince them, to get them interested, motivate them.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many ways.
For instance, I have during the first COVID installation, I have a garden, and I can about 80% of what I eat I can take from my garden, right?
Oh, that's nice.
And so I'm really interested in permaculture. I'm really interested in subsistence production. And when this happened, everyone that was there that had their gardens, they were all out in their gardens and they were all working. And if you talk about gardening, then people don't really think, okay, that's something that's good for my psyche. It's good for my body to be working outside. I'm getting bacteria under my fingernails for my immunity. I'm doing all these things. But you can't really, if you say gardening, then that's not enough, because people just think, okay, get dirty, no thanks.
Yeah. I'm thinking about my back when I'm here listening to you.
Actually hurts the back. Yeah.
No, but you are right. Thank you.
But it's funny, there are simple concepts, simple things that you can do that have all the combinations built into them that you need to have, and that's what I think is interesting. I don't know. It's always a question as to how do you sell it? What is the title? It always has to have a title.
Yeah.
Mark, something very interesting during the lockdowns. Actually, I managed to make the whole neighborhood planting. Food, yeah, and all of them got into it, and it was a wonderful experience to see how, in a stage of crisis, they all came together and we all got together, and in the end, it was more about the community.
Yep.
And we started sharing the plants and learning about various ways to grow them.
When you do that in Germany, I will personally nominate you for Nobel Peace Prize.
But that was until the lockdowns. Then everyone was gone into their own problems.
Okay.
But it was very nice behaviorally, like to see the potential.
Mm.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, okay, Julian, your head is spinning, I think, with ideas and ideas and ideas.
Yeah.
So I think some last statements, and we are done for today, right? This is a good idea. I love it, and let's see what we can put out there. So from my perspective, I start with the last words. This is what the Larnaca-Conferences are about. So thank you very much. I love this, and I'm excited to work with all of you and stay in contact. And Tom, your head is spinning as well, right?
Yes, as a matter of fact, and I just really briefly wanted to show something from that lovely cupboard you mentioned behind me. I have a book there from 40 years ago that when I was a young hippie back then, we had people talking about this movement, and it was Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw. I want to show you this. It's the Life Extension book from 40 years ago. If you're not familiar with this, it says on the cover, adding years to your life and life to your years. So, Marius, if you're not familiar with it, you may want to check these guys out. This is one of the first printings of that book. You can see it was very cheap at the time. But anyway, great work, everybody. And it's so lovely to be able to be the person here representing North America. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, I could have done it, but they kicked me out. So
my last words, I've just been looking around. I also have this book on my shelf. You can read my history of life extension in the 20th century. It's all there. And I've been asking myself, where have we been for the last 40 years? Why haven't we advanced? At least we need to start somewhere. At least we need to start now. At least we were hit by COVID on our heads. So with this aging issue, we have to face it. If we don't, it will be worse and worse. So it's just about our survival.
Thanks.
The health span issue.
Marius?
Are you waiting for me?
Of course, always.
The good thing with having Ilya on any board is that we agree in our views. So whatever he says, I agree with him, and I don't need to repeat it.
Okay.
So thank you, Ilya.
So anyone else wants to say something? You do not have to if you do not want to. And this is always the awkward moment. So we give you 1 awkward minute, and then we just shut the channel down.
Yeah, maybe, Hans, can you just, you have done the board. Anything you would like to show us? The outcome of our experiment.
Oh, can't hear you, Hans.
We can hear. Can you hear us? Okay.
But we can't hear you. Say something. 1, 2, check.
1, 2, 3.
We hear you.
Okay. I'm just wondering why Barbara didn't stop talking and I was talking. You all have the link to that wonderful board. It's an experiment. It's still ongoing. I've written down my feedback as well. It was hard to follow. That was my impression. And there are too many channels to put text on. So we have the chat in the Zoom, we have the Rocket chat, we have the board chat, and we have the chat, and we have the talk. So for the first part of the experiment, okay. I don't know. So the board exists. It's accessible for all with a link, and everyone can go there.
Cannot copy it here. Can you make a new copy of the link, because it's at the top of the chat?
I've just posted the link.
Yeah.
Should be there. I can see it.
Ah, wonderful.
Yeah. And yes, you see the outcome, and you can add your own notes or something like that to it. And perhaps in the next discussions or in the work process, you may use this board for as a protocol or something like that.
Thank you. Julian, do you have a copy of the link?
Yes.
Wonderful. I think you are the one who needs this the most, right?
Yeah, I'm logged in. I was reading the notes, the many notes.
Okay. And we will not only publish this video, we will also create a short video with some of the most amazing comments today. Yeah, so we have a teaser for people to dig in easier. That was almost a rhyme. Okay, so then I think the awkward moment is over and we all can say goodbye, right?
Right.
Nice evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.